ఈ వీడియోలో మనం యాసిడ్స్, బేసెస్ అండ్ సాల్ట్స్ అనే చాప్టర్ నుంచి సాల్ట్స్ గురించి డిస్కస్ చేద్దాం. సాల్ట్స్ అంటే ఏంటి? వాట్ ఆర్ సాల్ట్స్? టైప్స్ ఆఫ్ సాల్ట్స్, హౌ ద సాల్ట్స్ ఆర్ ఫార్మింగ్, అండ్ వాట్ ఈస్ ద pH ఆఫ్ దీస్ సాల్ట్స్, అండ్ వాట్ ఆర్ ద ఫ్యామిలీస్ ఆఫ్ సాల్ట్స్. ఈ టాపిక్స్ అన్నీ డిస్కస్ చేద్దాం. ఈ వీడియో చివరి వరకు చూడండి సో దాట్ యూ విల్ అండర్స్టాండ్ ద కాన్సెప్ట్ వెల్. ఓకే, salts are a category of chemical compounds that are formed by neutralization reaction. Neutralization reaction అనేది acids and bases మధ్య జరుగుతుంది, right? When an acid reacts with a base, we know that water and a salt are going to form as products, right? For example, NaOH is a base. When it reacts with HCl, that is an acid, you are going to get a salt NaCl and water H2O, right? Here the salt is NaCl. This is also called common salt. We have not only this salt, many other salts are there. We are going to discuss about some of them. The salts are ionic compounds. Please note this. Okay, they are composed of positive and negative ions. For example, NaCl, Na plus and Cl minus, these are the ions. Na is positive ion and Cl minus is negative ion. When you have these two things together, you have NaCl salt forming. Similarly, Na2SO4. Okay, here you have 2 Na plus and SO4 2 minus. These are two ions, positive ions, and you have negative ions. When they are together, they are forming these ionic compounds called salts. Please note this. KCl is another salt, right? Potassium, K plus and Cl minus. Like that, we will be having many salts, and some of them we are going to discuss in the following. Salts typically composed of positive ions from the base and negative ions from the acid. Please note this. We said that salts are formed when acid reacts with base, right? So the salt is typically going to compose of positive ions from base and negative ions from the acid. Look at this, NaCl, Na plus and Cl minus, right? This Na plus is coming from base NaOH. And Cl minus, the negative ion, is coming from HCl acid. You understood? So this is a typical of the salts. And we are going to look at few more examples as we go. The salts can be in the form of crystals, powders, or granules. For example, NaCl, we know NaCl is going to exist in crystal form, right? Like that, for example, you can take a look at bleaching powder. It may be in the powder form. Salts are used in range of applications. For example, food processing, cleaning, fertilizers, and we will be using it in making of the food because sodium chloride used as tastant in the food, right? And certain salts are used as medicines also. In the manufacturing of medicines also, certain salts are used. And we are going to discuss about some of these applications in the upcoming video. We said that when acid reacts with a base, water and salt are getting formed, right? We know that acids are of two types, strong acids and weak acid. Similarly, we know there are two types of bases, that are strong bases and weak bases, right? It means we can have 4 different combinations of reactions possible, right? Strong acid, strong base can react. Strong acid, weak base can react. Weak acid, strong base can react. Weak acid, weak base can react, right? So 4 different possible combinations we can expect, right? We know that some of the examples for strong acids, right? HCl is one of the strong acids, H2SO4, HNO3. This is hydrochloric acid, sulfuric acid, nitric acid. These are few examples of strong acids, right? And weak acids, carbonic acid, acetic acid, formic acid, and there will be few more examples. Strong bases, then you can say NaOH, KOH, CaOH twice, and many more will be there, strong bases. And similarly, there will be weak bases, ammonium hydroxide, magnesium hydroxide, copper hydroxide. These are few examples of weak bases. Okay. We just said that when acid reacts with a base, water and salt are going to be forming, right? And in the salt, the positive ion is typically from base and negative ion is from acid. That's what we just learned. Now let us look at few salts that are getting formed by the reaction between strong acids and strong bases. Let us consider this reaction. NaOH, strong base. It is reacting with HCl. This is strong acid. What you have is sodium chloride as the salt, right? The positive ion Na is coming from base, and chlorine ion, that is negative ion, or chloride ion, that is negative ion, it is coming from acid, right? Let's look at another reaction. NaOH reacting with H2SO4. H2SO4 is strong acid, sulfuric acid, right? When sodium hydroxide reacts with sulfuric acid, you have sodium sulfate as the salt. Please note this. Here also, Na, that is a positive ion coming from base, and negative ion coming from the acid, right? Let's look at another reaction. NaOH reacting with HNO3. HNO3 is a strong acid. When these two react, what you have is sodium nitrate as the salt. Okay? Let's look at this reaction. KOH, potassium hydroxide, is reacting with H2SO4. In this case, what you have, the salt is potassium sulfate. Please note this. CaOH twice, that is strong base. When it reacts with sulfuric acid, that is a strong acid. You have CaSO4, that is calcium sulfate as the salt, right? When you have strong acid reacting with strong base, we are getting different kind of salts, right? Starting from sodium chloride. These are only few examples. Sodium chloride is widely used salt. There are other salts like sodium nitrate, potassium nitrate, sodium chloride, calcium sulfate, etc., right? Let's look at another combination of acids and bases. You have strong acids. When they react with weak bases, you are going to get a different kind of salts, right? Let's look at some of them. NH4OH, this is ammonium hydroxide. When it reacts with HCl, you are going to get ammonium chloride as the salt. When magnesium hydroxide, that is weak base, that is reacting with sulfuric acid, which is a strong acid, you are getting magnesium sulfate as the salt. Okay? Copper hydroxide, that is a weak base, when it reacts with H2SO4, which is a strong acid, you are getting copper sulfate as the salt. Ammonium hydroxide, when it reacts with H2SO4, what you get is ammonium sulfate. Ammonium sulfate is generally used as fertilizer for the plants. Sometimes people use even ammonium chloride also, depending upon soil conditions and availability of fertilizer. Ammonium chloride also sometimes used as fertilizer. Ammonium hydroxide, when it reacts with strong acids such as nitric acid, what you get as the salt is ammonium nitrate. Ammonium nitrate is also a fertilizer. Understood? Now let's look at another combination, weak acids and strong bases. The reaction between them is also going to give you some salts, right? Let's find few of them. NaOH is the strong base when it reacts with carbonic acid. This H2CO3 is called carbonic acid. When they react, what you have is sodium carbonate as the salt. కార్బోనిక్ యాసిడ్ జనరల్గా మనకి ఎక్కడ దొరుకుతుందంటే మీరు డ్రింకింగ్ సోడా చూసుంటారు, రైట్? యూ హ్యావ్ వాటర్ అండ్ సమ్ కార్బన్ డైఆక్సైడ్ ఈజ్ mixed into it, right? That soda has this acid called carbonic acid. When NaOH reacts with carbonic acid, you are getting sodium carbonate as the salt. When KOH reacts with carbonic acid, you are getting potassium carbonate as the salt. CaOH twice, that is calcium hydroxide, strong base, when it reacts with carbonic acid, you are getting calcium carbonate as the salt, right? We know calcium carbonate can be used to produce CaOH twice, right? NaOH, this is sodium hydroxide, when it reacts with acetic acid, you are getting sodium acetate. This is a salt, okay? And you have formic acid reacting with NaOH, giving rise to sodium formate. This is a salt. You see, weak acids reacting with strong bases leading to some kind of salts, right? These are few example salts. Then we can have reactions between weak acids and weak bases. Let's see some of the reactions. Ammonium hydroxide, weak base, reacting with carbonic acid, that is weak acid, giving rise to ammonium bicarbonate as the salt, NH4HCO3. Ammonium hydroxide, when it is reacting with acetic acid, weak base reacting with weak acid, giving rise to weak water and salt, that is ammonium acetate. So now we have seen strong acid reacting with strong base, strong acid reacting with weak base, and weak acid reacting with weak bases, and weak acid reacting with strong bases, right? And now let's look at families of salts. Salts having same positive or negative ions belong to a family. For example, we have seen multiple salts, right? NaCl, Na2SO4, NaNO3, K2SO4, like that we have seen bunch of salts. All all sodium containing salts are called sodium salts, or they belong to the family of sodium salt. For example, NaCl, Na2SO4, NaNO3, Na2CO3, all these are having the same positive ion, right? That positive ion is sodium ion. That's why these belong to the sodium family, or sometimes you can call them as sodium salts. All chlorine containing salts are called chloride salts. For example, you have NaCl, negative ion is chlorine. Ammonium chloride, the negative ion is chloride. KCl, you see, in all these cases we have chlorine as the common ion, that is negative ion, right? So these all belong to chloride family. Similarly, CO3 containing salts belong to carbonates family. You have Na2CO3, K2CO3, CaCO3, and many more, right? All sulfates, SO4 containing salts belong to sulfates family. Please note this. All K containing salts, potassium containing salts, belong to potassium family, or they can be called as potassium salts, right? You have carbonates, you have acetates, all sort of possibilities are there, right? Try to understand the concept. Sodium containing salts, Na containing salts are called sodium salts, or family of sodium salts. Chloride containing salts belong to chlorides family. Carbonate containing salts belong to carbonates family, like that. Understood? Let us now learn about pH of salts. మనకు ఒక సాల్ట్ ఇచ్చి దాని pH కనుక్కోమన్నారు అనుకోండి, యూ సింప్లీ డిజాల్వ్ దట్ సాల్ట్ ఇన్ వాటర్. వాటర్ అంటే నార్మల్ వాటర్ కాదు, డిస్టిల్ వాటర్ తీసుకోండి. బికాస్ డిస్టిల్డ్ వాటర్ pH is 7, న్యూట్రల్, రైట్? న్యూట్రల్ pH. సో you add this salt and then the solution is formed. Now you measure the pH of that particular solution with the help of universal indicator or pH meter. Okay, then you will be getting the pH of the salt. pH of salt ని బేస్ చేసుకుని we can say there are 3 kinds of salts: neutral salts, acidic salts and basic salts. Neutral salts అంటే వాటి pH 7 ఉంటుంది, acidic salts pH less than 7 ఉంటుంది, basic salts pH greater than 7 ఉంటుంది, రైట్? మనం pH మెజర్ చేశాక గివెన్ సాల్ట్ ఈజ్ న్యూట్రల్ సాల్టా, ఎసిడిక్ సాల్టా, బేసిక్ సాల్ట్ అనేది చెప్పొచ్చు. దట్ ఈస్ వన్ వే టు డూ. అదర్ థింగ్ ఈజ్ యూ హ్యావ్ a thumb rule. That thumb rule says that a neutral salt is formed when a strong acid and strong base react. మీ స్ట్రాంగ్ యాసిడ్ స్ట్రాంగ్ బేస్ కనుక రియాక్ట్ అయితే ఫామ్ అయ్యే సాల్ట్ ఏదైతే ఉందో దట్ ఈస్ గోయింగ్ టు బి న్యూట్రల్ సాల్ట్ అండ్ ఇట్స్ pH ఈస్ గోయింగ్ టు బి 7. సిమిలర్లీ వీక్ యాసిడ్ వీక్ బేస్ రియాక్ట్ అయినప్పుడు కూడా యూ గెట్ న్యూట్రల్ సాల్ట్స్. ఓకే, for example, we have seen certain strong acids reacting with strong bases, right? NaOH reacting with HCl giving rise to NaCl. This is sodium chloride. In pH 7 ఉంటుంది. NaOH reacting with sulfuric acid that gave sodium sulfate. దీని pH కూడా 7 ఉంటుంది. Similarly, sodium nitrate, which is formed by the reaction between NaOH and HNO3, you get sodium nitrate. దాని pH కూడా 7 ఉంటుంది, ఎందుకంటే this is also a neutral salt. Potassium sulfate is also a neutral salt. ఎందుకు? Potassium hydroxide and sulfuric acid, these two are strong acids and strong bases, right? When they react, the salt you get is a neutral salt. Calcium hydroxide, when it reacts with sulfuric acid, you are getting calcium sulfate. That is also a neutral salt. So these are few examples for neutral salts and their pH is going to be equal to 7. Please note this. pH of neutral salts is 7. మనకు ఒక సాల్ట్ ఇచ్చేసి దాని pH ఎంత ఉంటుంది, ఎసిడిక్ సాల్టా, న్యూట్రల్ సాల్టా, బేసిక్ సాల్టా అని అడిగినప్పుడు what you have to do is you have to see what is the positive ion, what is the negative ion. Where this positive ion is coming from? Is it coming from a strong acid? Sorry, is it coming from a strong base? Because positive ions come from strong bases, right? And negative ion, is it coming from a strong acid or weak acid? You have to figure out that. When strong acid and strong base react, you get a salt that is of neutral pH or pH 7. Same is true with weak acid and weak base. What you have to do is, given the ion, given the salt, what is the positive ion and what is the negative ion? You have to see. Negative ion comes from acid, right? The positive ion is coming from the base. Now you see, is it a strong base? Is it a strong acid? If these two are strong, then the salt is neutral salt. If both are weak, then also you have a neutral salt. Understood? Now let's look at acidic salts. An acidic salt is formed when a strong acid reacts with weak base. You see here, acidic salt, strong acid. Okay? We have seen some reactions between strong acid and weak base, right? Let's take a look at them again. Ammonium hydroxide, this is a weak base. When reacts with HCl, that is a strong acid, you got ammonium chloride, right? Ammonium chloride is an acidic salt. Okay, its pH is going to be less than 7. Please note this. Magnesium hydroxide, weak base. When it reacts with sulfuric acid, that is a strong acid, you are getting magnesium sulfate. It is an acidic salt. its pH is going to be less than 7. Similarly, you have few more example. Copper sulfate, because it is coming from strong acid, right? That is why it is also an acidic salt. Ammonium sulfate is also an acidic salt. Ammonium nitrate is also an acidic salt. Its pH is also going to be less than 7. So here we have few examples for acidic salts. Their pH is going to be less than 7. If you want to exactly know the pH, we have to create solution of this and then use pH meter to figure out exactly what is the pH of this. But to say whether it is an acidic salt, basic salt, you can simply go by this rule. When a strong acid reacts with weak base, you are getting a salt that is acidic in nature and its pH is going to be less than 7. Okay? Let's look at basic salt. This particular salt will form when you have a weak acid reacting with strong base. You see, strong base, basic salt. When both are strong, we are getting neutral salt. When one of them is strong, we are getting, if the base is strong, we are getting basic salt. If the acid is strong, we are getting acidic salt. Right? Some examples, you see NaOH is strong base. When it reacts with carbonic acid, you're getting Na2CO3, that is sodium carbonate. It is a basic salt. Potassium carbonate is also a basic salt. Its pH is going to be greater than 7. Calcium carbonate is also a basic salt. It is going to be basic salt with pH greater than 7. And you have sodium acetate, which is formed by the reaction between NaOH, strong base, and acetic acid, weak acid, right? When these two react, you are getting sodium acetate, that is basic salt. Its pH is going to be greater than 7. Sodium formate, it forms due to the reaction between NaOH and formic acid, right? This is also a basic salt. So few examples for basic salts. You have Na2CO3, sodium carbonate, potassium carbonate, calcium carbonate, sodium acetate, sodium formate, and few more. Basic salts pH, this is basic salts pH, is going to be greater than 7. You understood? Strong acid, when they react, you are getting neutral salt. Strong acid, this is, let me say acid, this is base, and this is salt. When strong acid reacts with weak base, you are getting acidic salt. When weak acid is reacting with strong base, we are getting basic salt. When weak acid is going to react with weak base, we are going to get neutral salt. You have seen which is strong. You are going to get that nature only. If acid is strong, the salt is going to be acidic. If base is strong, the salt is going to be basic. In other two cases, the salts are going to be neutral. Understood?